Market news now. Asian stocks and U.S. equity futures were steady as investors assessed mixed U.S. economic data and comments from the Federal Reserve official that the central bank is on course to taper stimulus support. Investors also monitored Hong Kong-listed shares of firms related to the Chinese video game sector after Chinese state media once again took aim at the industry. Over in Europe, European markets were mixed as investors digested more corporate earnings and await a key monetary policy decision from the Bank of England. The bank is expected to uphold its massive stimulus program despite continued recovery from the UK's pandemic lows and a rebound in inflation. When we look at what's happening in the US, investors await more corporate earnings and the Labour Department's official jobs report that will be released tomorrow. To talk to us a little bit more about what is happening in the markets, we are joined by Owen Ngomo from Ngunzi Investments. Owen, thank you so much for your time. Let's check in on the JSE. We opened a little bit weaker. By 10:15 today, we were down 0.1%. How are we looking now at around lunchtime? Owen?
Hello, Anastasia.
Okay, so let's check in on the JSE. We opened a little bit weaker. It's around lunchtime now. How is the market looking?
Oh, yes, the JSE is just currently down 0.3%, Anastasia, with the biggest losing sector there being the Resi 10, down 2.2%. Financials gaining some good ground on the day, 3.19% better, and the mid-cap stocks also up on the day, 1.21%. That's how the market is currently looking at the stage. And if you're looking at the currencies, 14.37, a fairly respectable level for the currency. And if you're looking at the pound, 20 rands and 2 cents, that's what we're paying for £1. And for the euro, at the moment, we're paying 17.02. The gold price, 1,812 trading at the moment. Gold has really been boring. It's up only about $5-6 in the past few days and not doing anything more than that. It still seems to be hugging the $1,800 an ounce price level. Brent crude oil, 70.38. I'll take that any day, as opposed to $75 for a barrel of crude oil. And you know exactly why we are worried about the price of Brent crude oil, Anastasia.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, we had a lot of the retailers giving us updates in terms of the extent of damage that they experienced during the unrest. Pepco has just given us their update saying 500 plus stores looted. However, most of them will reopen in September, around 329 if I'm not mistaken. That's encouraging, right?
It is relatively encouraging. And unfortunately, the fact that they had all these shops attacked, 500 stores across KZN being attacked during the recent riots is a big problem. And I think it sort of holds them back in terms of the number of stores they've been wanting to open. I guess they have to focus on trying to deal with the aftermath of the recent riots. They open about 350 stores every year, but management remains confident that they should come right with those stores. But I guess this is just an indication of the widespread impact of the damage that was experienced in the past few weeks, Anastasia, affecting the big retail names and therefore indirectly affecting the jobs as well.
Right, so let's talk about the Delta variant. I mean, it's raising all kinds of concerns in various parts of the world. And one analyst saying on social media that the coronavirus might be something that we have to live with going forward because we can't get back to those situations where economies will be in lockdown, etc., etc. Is that how you're seeing it as well, that COVID will be with us for the next year or so?
Look, I mean, I'm not a medical expert, but I think, as you said, the fact that this thing keeps mutating into something different. We've had probably 3-4 odd mutations, if not more, from the beginning of the COVID virus that was discovered in 2019. So one worries that, the continued mutation might see us at a different sort of variant, and which might be more aggressive and which might obviously impede our decision-making ability as companies, as government, because, as the genes mutate, or rather as this virus is continuing to mutate, it makes it difficult for us to try and deal with it and control it. Obviously, it impacts business, it impacts the economies, and we cannot have any more of this extended lockdown period. That's why one hopes that the vaccination of our fellow citizens is going to at least come in handy in terms of fighting COVID.
So yesterday we had the ADP report that came out showing that the U.S. private sector added fewer jobs than economists had expected. Tomorrow we've got the U.S. jobs report. How important is that report in giving us an indication in terms of where the Fed may go?
It's extremely important, Anastasia. It's one of those indicators that we continue to watch to check if the biggest engine in the world, which is the U.S. economy, is moving in the right direction. If we see an increased number of jobs being created in America, we can conclude that the momentum for recovery in the state, given the impact of COVID, is moving in the right direction, and therefore potentially we could use that as a gauge to say what we're expecting from the rest of the world in terms of economic recovery, given the current pandemic. So it's a very big number we're expecting, and we hope that it does surprise us on the upside.
So over the past week, we've been talking about what is happening in China with the regulation and its effect on the tech sector. What are you saying to some of your investors to calm their nerves if they have exposure to Tencent Naspers process?
Look, this has actually been the biggest risk in my view for Naspers and process since unbundling. The fact that they rely on the government that's been accommodative to Tencent, and all of a sudden the government is changing the rules, and it's going to impact those businesses of Naspers that actually contribute quite significantly to Tencent and all the other businesses that offer online education and things like that. So it's quite a major conundrum, and the biggest problem is that Naspers is the biggest share on the JSE. It's the biggest share on most portfolios that are managed out there by independent asset managers, and including the PIC as well. So if this news continues to permeate through the market and is perceived as negative, and actually the Chinese government proceeds to act and start levying punishment against the people that are seen to not be complying, I do anticipate there will be a major fall-off in the price of Naspers and process.
Owen, thank you so much for your time. That is Owen Gomo, who is the CEO of Ngunzi Investment.